Hi, this is Pat Johnson, your psychology instructor, and in this mini lecture we're going to talk about the corpus callosum, brain hemisphere functions, and split brain surgery. So let's talk about the corpus callosum. Corpus meaning body, callosum meaning large, and the corpus callosum from this side view of the brain you can see is right here. So it would be beneath the cerebral hemisphere and above the limbic system. And this is a band, a very, very thick band, and you can see it here, of neurons that join one side of the brain to the other. So this is how the two cerebral hemispheres talk to each other. They are connected by the corpus callosum, this band of neurons that connect one hemisphere to the other hemisphere. So this cartoon shows that the corpus callosum is the great mediator. It allows the two hemispheres to work together. And in most brains, in most normal brains, we have a fully functioning corpus callosum. And so what is thought of in the left hemisphere is transferred to the right hemisphere, and so on and so forth. So the corpus callosum helps the two hemispheres talk to each other. So each hemisphere controls the opposite side of the body. So my left hemisphere is controlling my right hand, and my right hemisphere is controlling my left hand. And so if I was to have a stroke in my left hemisphere, it would affect my movement on the right hand side of my body. And if I had a stroke in the right hemisphere, it would control my left side of my body. And there would be problems there. All right, there is some specialization in hemisphere functions, and this is the way it is laid out for most of the population. If you're left-handed like I am, your brain may not be organized in this way, but for most people, for right-handed people, this is the way that the brain is organized. So again, the left hemisphere of the brain is controlling the right side of the body, and I like to think of the left hemisphere as more of the nerd. It's math, science, all those analytical and objective skills. The other thing I want you to know is that language, both written and spoken language, are functions of the left hemisphere. So make sure that you remember that language and left. And the way I always tell my students is L and L. Language is on the left hemisphere. And logic and reasoning too. The right hemisphere of your brain is more of the artistic side of the body. It is more music, art, subjective, creative, intuitive, all of those things there. And one thing that the right hemisphere does is facial recognition. And that's a very, very cool skill that your brain does that you don't even realize it does, is you have the ability to recognize faces. And I happen to be one of those people that has face blindness, also called prosopagnosia, and my sister, myself, and my father all have great problems with facial recognition. Again, it's called prosopagnosia, or face blindness, and we don't recognize faces very well, and I'll talk about that in another lecture. Sometimes split brain surgery is done, and this is usually done in cases of epilepsy where we have a brain that is not having numerous seizures and is not responding to medication. So what is done is the brain is split along the corpus callosum right here, where we have two fully functioning hemispheres, but they're just not talking to each other anymore. We have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere functioning independently. And a gentleman by the name of Dr. Gazzaniga, Mike Gazzaniga, is the leading researcher in the area of split brain surgery. And he has tested those patients who have gone through split brain surgery, and on the surface they act, think, and look normal, but under laboratory conditions we can see that the split brain surgery pretty much left them with almost two brains functioning independently from each other. And let's take a look at an example of what Dr. Gazzaniga might see in his lab. So, what you see in your right visual field actually goes to the left hemisphere of your brain. And if you remember, the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. So we have the right visual field is going to the left hemisphere, and the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. The left visual field is going to the right hemisphere, and the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. So we see this crossing over of both visual field and control of the body in the brain. Now I want you to remember that the left hemisphere is the hemisphere that controls language, and the right hemisphere is silent. So if our person is with split brain surgery is staring straight forward, and they see out of their eyes in their right visual field the word face, that word face is going to go over to the left hemisphere, and because the left hemisphere controls language, they will be able to say the word face. Now, let me get my face out of here. If the person sees the word face in their left visual field, it will go to their right hemisphere. The right hemisphere will not be able to say anything because it does not have language, but remember that right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, so the left side of the body will be able to draw a face. So although the right hemisphere is seeing it, it can't say it, but it can draw it. So again, the researcher's name is Mike Gazzaniga. He's the leading researcher on split brain surgery that shows just what happens when the corpus callosum is severed, and we can really see the functions of the two sides of the brain.